This month, we commemorate one of the most important events in the history of the world, the arrival of the Pilgrims on the Mayflower to the New World, filled with the hope and promise of religious freedom. We often take for granted the monumental achievement our religious freedom represents, and the radical departure it was from the cultures from whence we came. For most of human history, prior to America's founding, a free conscience was not seen as an essential human good, but as a threat. From Athens to Rome to London, human beings everywhere believed that religion was too important to be left to the individual alone. The city of God was submitted for safekeeping to the city of man. So from ancient tribes to modern empires, governments derived their authority from the church and vice versa. Uniform obedience to the established religion was enforced by the state. Minority faiths were suppressed, and heresy was punished as a crime, often by death. But America was different, not by accident or mere whim, but by design. America was founded by men and women, families and congregations who had the courage to flee religious persecution in the old world and the conviction to build a religious community based on liberty in the new world. The principle they established was not mere religious toleration, but religious liberty. There's an important difference. You see, under a policy of religious tolerance, religious dissenters are accepted at the discretion of those in power, but they're still understood as others. Religious liberty, on the other hand, is a principle rooted in the natural right of all human beings everywhere to the free exercise of religion. America's founders thought that this principle was so important, so fundamental, that not only was it enshrined in the Bill of Rights, but it was the first freedom articulated in the First Amendment to the Constitution. They did this because they understood that man is not free unless his conscience is also free. So their genius was to defend and preserve this space of our deepest convictions, a space upon which the state cannot and must never encroach. In practice, religious liberty in America has meant that the government's job is not to tell people what to believe or how to discharge their religious duties, but to protect the space for all people of all faiths and those of no faith at all, to seek truth and to order their lives accordingly. No matter who you are or where you're from, or regardless of your race, your wealth, your profession, your political affiliation, or your sexual orientation, to be free in America is to know that you won't be forced to compromise your conscience as a price for your citizenship. And it's perhaps the most defining feature that has made America the great, exceptional, unusual place that it is. As a result, we've had the most religiously diverse and tolerant nation in human history. It has, from our earliest days, been one of the greatest sources of our strength as a people and success as a nation. The breadth and depth of this conception has allowed and encouraged people of all faiths and traditions to live here in friendship and cooperation with one another. Because it's in this space, between the isolated individual and the overwhelming power of the state, where citizens can not only live out their deepest convictions and express them in the public square, but also where we can better the lives of those around us. In fact, every great social reform movement in American history, from abolition and civil rights to the struggle for women's equality and labor rights, to the pro-life movement of today, all of these movements have grown out of individual Americans' religious convictions and their constitutionally protected right to live them out. All Americans of all faiths, and those of none, have benefited equally from our nation's unique commitment to religious liberty. Religious liberty, as it's been lived out in America, is not an accident of history or a quirk of the law. It is nothing less than a culture-defining human achievement.